we're going to talk about how the area and the perimeter change based on your zoom factor. So let's take a look at our original rectangle here, which had a base of 7 and a height of 3. To find the perimeter, we're going to add all 4 sides together, right? And since this is a rectangle, that means that the opposite sides are going to be equal to each other. So that length would be 7 and this length would be 3. And the perimeter then would be 3 plus 7, which is 10, plus 3 is 13, plus another 7 is 20. So my perimeter for my original shape here is going to be 20 inches. The area of a rectangle is the base times height, so 7 times 3. So my area is 21 inches squared. All right, now we are performing a dilation, which is a transformation. And when we transform this for this particular problem, we are enlarging it by a zoom factor of 3. So that means that I'm going to take every side and multiply it by the zoom factor to get the new side length. So I'm going to take my original height, which was 3, and I'm going to multiply it by my zoom factor, which also happens to be 3, and that will give me my new height, which is 9 inches. My base was 7, so I'm going to do 7 times 3, and that's going to give me 21 inches. Okay, so now notice I'm using my prime notation here for the perimeter and the area because I transformed it. So I want to use prime notation to show that a transformation took place. My perimeter of my new shape is going to be 9 plus 21, which is 30, plus another 30 for the other 2 sides, which is 60 inches. And my area for my new shape would be base times height, which is 9 times 21, and that ends up being 189 square inches. Okay, so now the question is, what is going on with my zoom factor when I look at the perimeters, when I compare my perimeters, and when I compare my areas? So if I compare my perimeters, I've got my original perimeter was 20, and then my new perimeter was 60. So I multiplied that by 3. 20 times 3 gives me 60. And 3 just so happens to be my zoom factor. So that makes sense. It's just the perimeter is being multiplied by my zoom factor to get my new perimeter. Cool. All right, now my area was 21. And then I multiplied it by something and I ended up at 189. That was my new area. So what did I multiply that by? Well, I can do 189 divided by 21 to figure out what I multiplied it by. And it turns out that I multiplied it by 9. 9 is not my zoom factor, but 9 is what I get when I square my zoom factor. So 9 is 3 squared. So instead of multiplying the area just by the zoom factor, I'm going to multiply it by the zoom factor squared. And the reason why it ends up being the zoom factor squared is because I multiplied my base times the zoom factor, and I multiplied my height times the zoom factor. So I multiplied 7 times 3 and 3 times 3. So I really multiplied by 3 for 2 different dimensions, both dimensions, and 3 times 3 is 9. When I have an area, my dimensions, my units are always my area squared. So that can help you remember that when I'm comparing areas of similar shapes, their areas are going to be in a ratio of the zoom factor squared rather than just the zoom factor itself.